Hey YouTube, it's Mike back again for another little episode on the 125 and the 135 and some typical airgun information. We're going to look at this and take this apart real quick. You have the other videos that are up there, so we're not going to go through any of this. We're going to get down to pulling the piston out and taking a look at that piston, and then taking a look at some of the other stuff and going through some stuff, and then give you some tips and stuff to look for. So let's get into that right now. This rifle is just a mock-up rifle. I haven't yet even done any work to it other than take it apart, and I'm wearing the pins out as we speak. And so get your rifle off this, get your stock off. If you never took your stock off, go to the Hatsan 95 video clips. There's 4 of them. It'll tell you how to take the stock off. Yes, you need to know how to take the stock off, because if they drive those bolts home tight, you're going to need to know what to do, and you're going to need to know how to put them back, and especially on the 125s and 135s, because they can give you some issues. So remember, it's a Hatsan, and you know, Hatsans are not straightforward. But we're going to get you through this. And my goal is to hope that everybody that owns a Hatsan Magnum will at least know how to get into it, how to get by some of the problems, and some of the things to check. So let's get on with it, because I want to try to speed this up, and we'll get this whole end of the receiver out so we can get to the piston. So I'm going to break the barrel, take tension off that spring, and then take that spring off on the safety there. So if you're watching this video and you haven't seen any others, I recommend that you go back, because the other videos tell you how to deal with all your safety stuff, how to take it off, how to get rid of the trigger, and how to properly put it back, and also how to deal with some of the issues you could have. So I took that little spring off. I'm going to close the barrel, and we're just going to take this stuff basically apart. This is not the part that we're here to do any show and tell on this. Okay, so bear with me while I dismantle this rifle. We're going to get into the receiver. Today was not a stellar day, I could tell you that, but for some reason I decided that I was in the mood to do a video, and I'm going to do it anyway. Excuse me. Too many guys out there getting Hatsan air guns, and I'll tell you, it's a toss of the dice. So, you know, there's a lot of guys that are disappointed, and I can understand that fully. And then there's a lot of guys who are not disappointed. You get a Hatsan rifle and you know how to work it and really go over it with a fine-tooth comb, you can really have yourself a nice, powerful rifle. I mean, let's put it this way. There's no other rifles on the market in that power range for the price range as well. And if that's what floats your boat, then you're going to be one of the guys that are going to be buying one. If you're just simply going to be buying German rifles and sticking to that, well, then that's your choice. So, I'm not talking to you now, am I? No, I'm not. It's a little bit of humor there. All right, set that aside. So we're almost there. We're going to get into this receiver. Do a little quick show and tell here. I like the guns, you know. They're not German made. They're very powerful. They got a nice weaver rail. I mean, you know, in the right hand, you can make these things and pull the diamond out of them. And that's just the truth, you know. It's got a lot of potential. And besides, let's face it, come on, who are we kidding? Guys like me, and there's thousands of them, we love this stuff. So, it gives us something else to do. This is what we love to do. Anyway, I'll give you a little tour real quick of the spring guide in a second as soon as I get my tools. I got Hatsan parts all over this place. I got a rifle part here. I got a rifle part here. The one we got, that's 3 Hatsan rifles that are apart. Not to mention all this. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So anyway, now we're into the receiver. We're going to pull this receiver. And if you haven't seen this before, this will be good. You get a chance to see what it looks like. We're going to pull that piston out of there. And we're going to make sure the camera is on target and the mic is on, right? Yep. So for this Hatsan receiver on the 125, 135, I just made a block like that. And I notched it out. And I did it in a hurry because my normal block broke. Everything happens on camera. It's just funny. It's funny as hell. Anyway, so the notches go back and it goes around in here. And I didn't even do it even. It's kind of hastily done. And then I just come up with my spring compressor, which is basically a C-clamp from Harbor Freight cut down, and I just have a socket on the end of it, and sometimes I'll use the end of there. Alright, so we're going to take some tension off that main pin for the receiver, because you have all that spring pushing back, and then we'll be able to pull that pin out. And we'll take this guy out. Okay, now here's your first tip of the day when you have 125 in this series. If you go to take it out at your spring compressor, there's a good chance that your end of the receiver is not going to come out. Because 2 reasons. The end of the rifle receiver, the metal part, is egg-shaped. Just enough that it's not perfect. And the Hatsan ends of the receiver, that's not even out all the way. That's jammed. I'm so used to this stuff, I already know. But what I was telling you, now see how that fought? It didn't come out all the way. And you got to watch that. But I already know what I'm doing here. But there's a good chance, let's get rid of this. There's a good chance that this just under full spring load won't even budge when you take it out. And if that's the case, look, when you're in there like this, you know, I can't even get that back in. When you're pulling it out and it won't come out and you got your block all up against it like that, just go in there while it's in there and go through here and start tapping like that. Keep this maybe, you know, 1/8 to 1/4 inch back from the end of the receiver. Make sure it's safe. And then by you tapping like that, working it back through here and in, basically when this is in, right? You follow me? When it's like that, by you working it like that, that'll start loosening up a little bit, and she'll jam back into your wood. Then you got to give yourself another little space, let this come back away, and basically do it like that again until she starts working her way out. What a pain, but that's the way it goes. At any rate, that's one of the issues you can have with your Hatsan. And don't force it back in that way. What you need to do is, at that point, just Dremel this down, take the skin coat off. You just want to take enough off so it'll go back by hand, and not any more than that, because this is going to maintain the integrity of the end of your receiver. So remember that. Now, if you've taken a skin coat down with your Dremel, with your sanding drum wheel, and you stick it in, it goes in here like that, right? The nuts up to go up with that, and it goes in just fine, or a little firm, but that's okay. But if you go to turn and it gets tight or jams, don't worry about that part. As long as it goes in the direction you're supposed to, with the nut up, in like that, without forcing it, or without, really a struggle, then you're fine. Okay, because like I said, these are slightly egg-shaped. Besides, you don't want this real taut and tight in here, but you want it there to protect and keep the integrity of the end of your receiver. Of course, your trigger block goes in here, and you don't want this squeezing your trigger block by you having to force the trigger block into it. So that's one tip. The other tip, here's your Hatsan spring. That's what it looks like. It's nice and beefy. And then here's the spring guide. Absolutely useless. It does nothing. So if you're going to be tuning your rifle, these are big magnums. Come on. And they're oversprung and they're over-designed. Everything is beefed up to the hilt on them. So if you decide you insist on using your spring because you want full power, then you're going to have to make some Delrin guides that do what they're supposed to do. You can make them a little bit longer, and then drill the hole in the back, right, so that they fit here properly, and make another Delrin. This comes off like this. This one's off already. Comes off like that. So don't even use them on your new guides. Just make another Delrin ring, a solid Delrin ring, the same thickness as these two combined, and then put that up there like that on your new Delrin washer. But if you insist on doing that, what's going to happen is when you pull your 125, 135 spring out, you're not really going to know what left spring you have, because they're all a little different. Here's another one. Same thing. This is this much shorter. The rifle I had in here a week ago or whatever was actually an inch shorter. So it would have been down about here, right, compared to this one. So if you make the guide, don't think you're just going to whack a coil off and then heat it up and bring it down and smooth it and polish it, because you don't know where your spring's going to be, right? You're going to have to make your guide and your top hat, put it all in there when you're done, see if you can cock it. If you can, well then good. If not, then you know you got to cut your coil, right? Heat it up, fold it back, polish it, and Dremel it and polish it like normal, right? Anyway, that's the tip on that. I'm just trying to follow through with the process here, because these just vary all the time. So we had this that was shorter, and then we had another one last week that was shorter than that. I really highly recommend, though, truthfully, it's my opinion, there's two sides of the whole air gun coin. Yeah, I recommend you just stick the XL gas ram in it. Be done with it. You're going to lose 50 feet per second. And you know what? Then you won't have to worry about your spring ever breaking. And anyway, let's get this thing back off of here. Now, in order to get something out of the spring to tame your rifle better, well, then you have to detune a little bit, right? I mean, come on. It depends what you want. You may just want an animal that's not detuned, but at least you have good guides and all that. It's up to you. Everybody's different, but I highly recommend just doing away with the spring. And I love the Springer part of the air rifle, believe me. I'm just trying to tell you that's my opinion, that's how I feel about it. If you do make the guide, make sure you make the guide proper. And if you don't know how to make a proper guide, you shouldn't be there making one. Do your homework first. They're supposed to fit really tight and snug, right? And all the way, not just here or there. All the way. You can make it a little longer for this. So you take 2 fingers and you work it out. And it's going to take you all that you can to work it and get it out of there. It's supposed to be really taut and strong to get it out. Okay? And that'll be a good guide for this gun right here. That way it will be doing its job. I don't know what this does. Anyway, let's move on. Well, we got the spring end out, and then now we're going to take this rifle apart down here. Of course, we're trying to get to this piston. So let's see, put you over here, maybe that'll work out. So the first thing you're going to come across here is this setup with the little set screw. Okay, and the set screw goes down in there, and the set screw goes through one of the notches on the bolt. And that's way, when this is tight in the right position and the notch is lined up with creating the rest of this circle, then, you see that? The notch lines up creating the rest of that circle. When that's right, then that little set screw will go down and in and then past the bolt and slide right down next to the notch. And then when this is screwed in, it'll lock this bolt from turning on you when you break the barrel open all the time. It's a nifty design. I like it. But unfortunately, what comes with this design is the bolts are soft. And this here with the Hatsan, that's the Achilles heel with the whole entire gun. Well, you know, that's what they call lockup, so the lockup is important on any rifle. And every rifle's going to be different. Just trying to see if this microphone's on. Anyway, you take that out, and if you don't have the right driver, you're going to strip that head right off the bat. And oftentimes these are factory wrenched in. And so you're going to find that you're going to need the screwdriver to fit that the best. And if you can't push down and turn it to get it off, you're going to have to shock the screwdriver by sticking your driver in there and basically just shocking it. Give it three smacks to send shock waves into the bolt or the nut. We're talking about not the nut, but the screw. And then you can go down on the little screw and turn and break it free. If you can't break it free, it's because you didn't shock it right. You didn't shock it hard enough. Anyway, so once you get that out, break your barrel. Because now you're going to want to get this out. And that's your bolt. And then before we even go any further, I want to tell you what I recommend. And who am I? Well, I'm just another air gunner, and I get my hands involved in these guns, and I kind of like the Hatsans, and that's what I'm all about, basically. I like the RWSs and all the other German guns, but today we're just talking about this one. At any rate, this is what I recommend. If you have a Hatsan coming, or if you have one that you want to work on, before you work on it and do anything to it, if you shot it, that's great. If it's brand new in the box, shoot it for a while, check it over, make sure it's not broken or something. Shoot it for a while, but before you take this rifle apart, what I want you to do is follow through what I'm going to show you in a little while. and that will be checking the barrel out, seeing what's going on with your barrel. So you take your brand new gun, you have, say you have 30-day warranty. Before you take it apart, after you shot it, see what it's doing. I want you to highly suggest take and clean the barrel. You should have done that anyway, right? And then check the barrel. You're going to check this barrel to see what it's doing inside, and we're going to get to that. And that way, if you have a bad barrel, you're going to know it, and then before taking it apart and voiding your warranty, you can send it back and get another one. But anyway, let's get back to this. We're going to take this pivot bolt out, right? So break the barrel for that to take the tension that's on that spring jam. Okay? There's tension there. Break the barrel and get the tension off. So anyway, now you're dealing with a Hatsan rifle, and the Hatsans, all the bolts and screws, they are not American sized, right? So I doubt you're going to find a screwdriver that's going to fit that slot properly. I mean, here's the end of a tip on a typical Craftsman. It doesn't fit that properly. So if you're a handy guy and you're working on your rifle, you should be able to do this stuff that we're talking about. I just get chisels like this, and I make my own tools out of them. These are extra standby chisels, and I make my own chisels. I make my own drivers out of them for different things. So this one's designed that it fits that pivot bolt all the way and snugly. When they're brand new, I would have to actually seat this to the bottom of that bolt. So if you have a nice driver, find one that fits this the best, but I highly recommend that you make one, because the bolts are so soft. By the time you start to unscrew that and break that loose, you've already probably, most likely, have changed the bolt a little bit. So by the time you get all done, you may have an issue just putting it back. That's just because the head of the bolts are soft. And if you move it just a little bit, putting the little guy back just seems to be a problem. That's where you got to work this stuff out and be mechanical about it. Anyway, I have a driver here, and we're going to take this off. I'm going to sit it in there, seat it down there, tap it a little bit. Now, this is for your benefit, not mine. This rifle's been apart. I haven't done anything to it but take it apart and put it back. So we're going to take this apart, get it in there where it belongs, seat it, get the crescent wrench on it, lean down and rest on the receiver so that the receiver can't flip out from you, because sometimes these can be tight. You know, I got a little block that I stick on my screwdriver like this, and that way I don't have to hurt myself. I can keep some steady pressure on there, and we're going to just break that, carefully pushing down and turn. Okay? Now, it's not tight. I'm just acting like it is, because yours is going to be tight. So the key thing about this Hatsan that you have is, number one, it's very powerful and strong, correct? So one of the things about your Hatsan that you're going to need to know is that when you put this all back, this is the Achilles heel with this rifle. You got to have the lockup right. It has to be very firm. Okay? And if you wind up coming to where the original slot was not tight enough, then you have to go to the next slot. You have to go to where the lockup is firm. You need to break this barrel, and it's got to be firm. So, and if you don't land on a slot, but that's where you need to be, and if you went to the next slot and it's too tight, well, guess what? Now you have to do something about it. So that's up to you what you do, but I can tell you, I just take advantage of the soft bolt that it is, and I manipulate the metal. I'll put it back, and if it's not where I need to be, then I'll mark it when it's tight, and I know that's where I want it to break. I'll pull it out, and I'll start dressing this up and doing what I need to do, maybe make another slot right in between. And then when I get down in there, I go to put it back. Um, I'll see how this is, and if I go to turn it and it's not hitting the screw right because it's maybe a little short, I'll actually get in there and work that bolt wherever it is and start peening it over towards the screw side, basically burying that screw. Now that's if I have to. I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do and you don't have a choice. The other thing you can do, I know one guy, he actually makes notches on the bottom of the bolt, and then most of the time you're pretty lucky, but once in a while you're going to land on a spot and there's no notch for it. And you just manipulate that metal. The head of this whole bolt is through the block. So all that is being protected. You're just manipulating this metal. Take advantage of it. It's soft, manipulate it. If you're down in here and you're on a notch and your screw doesn't go on the way, right? But you're on the slot, push the slot back out of the way a little bit. Get a screwdriver and your punch. Manipulate the metal out. Put your little screw back in. Stick your chisel that you've made, or I should say your driver. Stick it back in. Try to get it in your slot. If you manipulate it so where you can't get in your slot, just carve a little point on that. And then get this down and smack it down and seat it, and that'll spread the screw back out. Then you can continue on to manipulate this again to kind of bury this screw so you have the lockup that you need. Now, of course, you got to do that at the end. You got to make sure your rifle is working properly. Right? In other words, it's not just a simple 1, 2, 3. You're going to have to put your rifle all back together, right? And then maybe fire it, test it. Good, it's great. Then take the stock off and seat this and set it if it's that much of a ordeal that what I'm trying to explain to you. If it's not, you may just have to be right on the spot. You just take a closer look. You may just have to Dremel your slot and clean it up, or look down in there and clean something up that's going in there. You may have a little piece of metal that just basically, when you unscrewed something, came loose. Right, a sharp something, and now it's blocking your way. You are the deciding factor between what's going on and what needs to be done. The other way around all that is, and I haven't done it, is to just get an 8mm cap head bolt, a long one, and get the die for it. I don't have the die, and I've never done one yet. I was always able to take this, what I've been given, and manipulate it in order to lock it in place where I've needed it. Okay? And I don't know what they use to lock the cap nut. I just know that's what they do. Fang does it. Ed Canoli did it with his R9, and that's the other thing that they do. This is the Achilles heel of a Hatsan. If you don't get the lockup right, you're going to have your point of impact shifting, because your jam obviously is not what's holding this barrel alone. Okay, the jam's got a spring on it, and this, you know what I mean? Do you ever see the pictures where you shoot it and the barrel waves? Well, if you don't have the lockup right, this is going to move on you. So it's very important to have a firm lockup, and if you can get that right, then you're almost there, but not quite, because now you have a seal. Now you got to check that piston seal, and if you don't think the piston seal's coming out enough, you know what? Do the tissue paper test. You just take a piece of tissue paper, don't fold it in half or nothing, just a single piece of tissue paper. This is all before you've taken it apart. You break your barrel, cock your barrel, blow the pellet in the breech, stick your tissue paper in there and close the barrel up on the tissue paper. Shoot it. If you have a bad seal, it's going to blow that tissue paper all over the place. And if you don't, it's just going to put a hole in it. And then when you open it up, that's it. It's still one piece. You just got a hole in it. So if you take this seal, right, and you take it out, and you shim it with, say, the dental floss, right? I like the dental floss. Some guys don't like dental floss because they're too much in a hurry. It doesn't bother me. I'll sit there for half an hour if I want. It doesn't matter. And I'll fold the dental floss, the wax dental floss at the bottom. It doesn't take much. You put your seal back in, and before you know it, your seal's up again. The shim would be nice, let's face it, but sometimes, you know, the world just doesn't have nice available. So now what I'm trying to say, if you stick the seal so it's sticking out too far, because you have it in your head that, geez, I'm going to have a good seal, you're actually going to cause a point of impact problem. The seals have to be just right. There's not much room for error on the seal. If you have too much, it's going to cause you a point of impact problem. Because when your rifle's together, see if I can get this together now. Oh no, I'll leave it alone because I want to show you something else. What happens is if you got pressure pushing away rather than the normal, then the least little bit of wave of energy from your shot coming down, that's going to attribute to maybe the barrel wanting to wave. Because you've got two pieces now that are trying to push apart. Because you made the seal too big, too long, sticking out. And it doesn't take much. So that's, if you didn't know that, now you know that, and maybe you can adjust your seals accordingly. It really doesn't take much. You know, you can look down here through a magnifying glass like this and look at that seal. And by the naked eye, it almost really looks like, geez, there's nothing there. It's just even. So do the tissue paper test. Then you can crony it. You can take it from there, okay? So that's the big tip on that. Anyway, we wanted to take this, push this aside. We wanted to take this piston out. And there it is. So let's get that out of there. I grab it by where the cock and shoe is. And when you go to take it out, it'll give you an idea of what's going on with the receiver. If you got an overly tight receiver, you're going to know it. That piston's going to be almost real hard to get out. This one is fine. It comes out. I have no problem. We're going to pull that out. So these are all tips for you to look at. You got these press slots right here on your piston. Take a look at each one. Just the last two rifles I've had, and I've never seen it before, but I had two pieces of crumpled up metal. Just real thin, rolled up, crumpled up metal. I'm not sure what the metal was from, if it was from when they knocked this out. I don't know, but it was really odd. And because I check everything, I was able to spot it and I get it out. Alright, let's see. Then you have something like that, which is just part of the steel it seems to be just hanging off the edge. Well, you know what? That would annoy me, so take a file and file that out clean and get it out of there. Check the other ones. You're good there. You're good there. Then flip it around. Check the sear slot. This was beautiful. It's clean. There's no overflashing. It's clean on the inside. You get your piston like that, you want to clean it all up, degrease it, and then check this if you're using your spring. That's supposed to have a bevel. Well, sometimes the bevels aren't sharp, aren't smooth. They might have a little edge on them. Re-bevel it, smooth it out, whatever it takes. Get that whole piston cleaned inside out. And then check that. Check it for roughness. Make sure that's all smooth. And if you really want, you can check the sear slot down here. Not the sear slot, I'm sorry. The cock and shoe slot goes right here. Check that for any little immoralities. I'm going to say immoralities. Just check it for some type of little nick or something. And if you do have something that's protruding in or up because it was hit or something, just take a real fine file and carefully smooth it off. Okay. The cock and slot and the arm actually ride quite loosely, so to speak, on here, but once it's in the receiver, that kind of keeps it, I would imagine, pretty close to the middle at all times. This can shift a little bit, so you're pretty good this way. Nothing's really going to jam, but if there's something there, get it off. It doesn't belong there. And there is something going on here. I don't know what this is. It's just moly paste. Okay. Now, if you see down here where your cock and slot, your sear slot is, if you take a look at that, this one here is actually kind of rough and there's like little cridgets in it. Well, you could sit there and cleanly file that smooth and flat, but I don't know. I wouldn't.